Brothers and sorrows, I ask that we start today's occasion with an opening invocation. And so I ask that you sit relaxed and as much as possible, be calm. Let us do some neutral breathing, in and out, and feel ourselves in a state of equipoise or balance. Sending out thoughts of light and love, of kindliness and tolerance to our fellow humans throughout the face of the earth. God of our hearts, God of our realization, we assemble in your presence, in light, life, and love, and remain grateful for the many blessings you have showered upon our common humanity. May our assembly today reflect upon life and the universality of those laws that link all of us together with your divine presence in creation. And may our acts of service ever be to your glory and the good of all. So mote it be. Greetings, fratres and sorors, and welcome to this forum in which we have the opportunity to continue with the Back to Basic series. Recall, some of you who have been with us these last few months, that on this platform, we have previously treated the mystical life, God and the cosmic, the God concept, and now today, aligning ourselves with the cosmic, aligning with cosmic law. It is important that each student on the path positions himself or herself in alignment with cosmic law. This is very fundamental to our comprehension of mystical studies and our Rosicrucian work. When we hear of the term cosmic laws, we cannot help but make a comparison with government laws or rules. For many people, going to school as a child provides the first experience of having to obey a strict set of rules. The regulation we meet in the school system makes a lasting impression on our young minds. Comparing the idea of cosmic laws to a school or government system of rules and regulations can go a long way in helping our understanding. However, this analogy is not perfect. If you look at examples of the rules typical of a school, such as those relating to punctuality, doing homework, wearing a uniform, or performing sanitation duties, we find that the punishment for breaking the rules is more emphasized than the benefits of complying with them. In other words, the advantages of following school rules are overshadowed, and the details of what will be suffered for breaking them are so clearly spelled out that it will seem the rules were put in place mainly for the purpose of punishment. Unfortunately, government laws don't fare much better in this regard. As a result of our experiences with school rules and government laws, we generally tend to look upon all laws as being restrictive. And this, as we know, fratres and sorors, is a misconception. If we look closely at the idea of breaking rules or laws, we can gain some insight into their nature. A school rule that makes it mandatory for students to wear a uniform to school will usually have a punishment for failing to do so. The penalty could be that such a student will be sent out of the school premises. However, a student going to school without a uniform does not necessarily imply that the school rule has been broken. It could rather be more accurately described as an attempt to break it. If the student is spotted in plain clothes and sent out, this fulfills the school rule. In particular, the clause of what happens when a student fails to wear a uniform to school. However, if the student freely attends school classes in plain clothes without any excuse and goes unpunished, then it could be said that the school rule has indeed been broken. In the wider society, outside the school system, there are many more laws in place. However, the larger the society, the more difficult it is to enforce governing laws. We therefore find that government laws are frequently broken by some citizens. These are people who ignore government regulations without suffering any repercussions. They are therefore, in effect, not subject to government regulation and could claim to be above the law, but indeed are breaking the law. School rules and government laws are usually written down or documented for reference purposes. The legal profession arose out of the need to have a clear interpretation of the numerous laws established by governments. However, these laws, though written, can be twisted by legal practitioners to serve ends that are morally unjust and yet lawful. While there are many written down laws, there are also numerous unwritten man-made laws that shape our lives. Some of these unwritten man-made laws are well known to us, such as the rules in our homes or the rules of etiquette in the society. Many of these rules, like making our beds in the morning or showing politeness to people we meet, can become so much a part of us that we cannot imagine ourselves being otherwise. However, we can choose to change from the ways we were taught when growing up and express ourselves in a totally different way. Some people have chosen to convert from the religion they grew up with into another religion, usually to the consternation of their family members. Others may choose to marry from a culture or racial group that is not acceptable by their own culture or race. Many of these rules are difficult to break, but they can and have been broken by many who have questioned the validity of such restrictions in their lives. Cultural or traditional rules or laws that are known can be broken knowingly. However, there are many other man-made laws that we are unconscious of, and yet they govern our lives very strictly. Their power over us is overwhelmingly and precisely because of the fact that we do not even know that they exist in our consciousness. A good example of this is racial prejudice. Many people have unconsciously established in their minds arbitrary ideas about other racial groups. These ideas exist as laws in their minds and silently control the way they interact with these other races. Many of such persons will stoutly deny that they are racist if accused, and such denials will be done in all honesty. However, a sincere comparison of how we behave with a different race when compared with how we behave with ours may shockingly reveal clear cases of prejudice that we never realized existed in us. The fortunate thing is that we can take steps to change or replace these mental habits once we become aware of their existence. Habits are unconscious laws we have formed in our minds. The best way to neutralize bad habits is simply to replace them with the habits we prefer to have. So, if a person, on discovering a hidden racist attitude, begins to consciously behave in a positive way towards every human being, irrespective of race, a new mental habit will be formed, which will override the former one. It has been stated in Rosicrucian literature, and I quote, "It is the laws that man makes, that man breaks," unquote. Man-made laws that are consciously or unconsciously formed can be changed or broken. However, the laws of nature to which man is subject cannot be changed or broken. These laws are discovered by the careful observation of phenomena. When we observe the constant repetition of natural events or phenomena, we know that a law of nature is responsible for this. With knowledge of the corresponding law, we can accurately predict certain natural events. For example, we can know the exact time of the next sunrise, the onset of the seasons, and even the time of events further in the future, like solar eclipses. Science has been able to identify many laws that regulate both the living and non-living things in our universe. However, science has barely scratched the surface of the multitudinous principles that govern our existence. The totality of these laws, known and unknown, are referred to as the cosmic laws. We must understand that everything that happens is a fulfillment of the cosmic laws. Nothing escapes cosmic law. The fact that man may not like what happens around him does not change cosmic law. The eruption of hot lava and poisonous gas from a volcano that put human beings in harm's way is as much a fulfillment of cosmic law as the life-giving radiations coming from the sun. The more we know or understand these laws, the more we are able to improve our chances of survival, and the more we'll be able to set and achieve our goals in life. If we observe that certain actions always lead to a specific result, we have discovered a law. Anytime we want the specific result in question, all we need to do is to carry out the actions that lead to its manifestation. For example, according to the laws of combustion, fire erupts when a combustible material like dry wood or petrol is exposed to high temperature in the presence of oxygen. To make a fire, all we need to do is to bring these factors together, and we will certainly have a fire. The question of why we have cosmic laws often arises in philosophy. What is the purpose of all these laws? Does the cosmic have a purpose or grand plan for the whole of existence? And in particular, does the cosmic have a purpose for man? These questions arise naturally because the human being is a purpose-driven creature. The thought of a life without purpose is unbearable to man. Purpose is defined as an anticipated outcome that guides us in planning our actions. By this definition, purpose should be the goal of our actions. An example of purpose in real life may help us appreciate it better. Let us take the example of a musical artist who writes a song or composes a piece of music. The music will be used for various purposes by those who choose to listen to it or play it. And this may be in line with the original intent of the composer in this sense, or completely different from it. Different artists may have different reasons for their works of art, but the ultimate purpose behind all artistic work is one and the same. And this is simply self-expression. When what is indwelling, when what is dwelling in the depths of our mind is made known to others by our actions, this is self-expression. Expression could also be said to be the process of making what is intangible and concealed within become tangible and observable outwardly. If, for example, a businessman conceives of an idea of how to supply raw food to the city at a reduced price, it remains an unexpressed idea until he carries it out. If now he proceeds to buy food from rural farms and, following his idea, transports them through the waterways at a much cheaper rate than using the roads, then he will have expressed his idea. There is, Francis and Soros, a hidden analogy or correspondence between an idea and a law. If we look upon the laws of nature as corresponding to cosmic ideas, this may further help us in our understanding. For example, the laws involved in cloud formation and rainfall are generally well known. The evaporation of water from Earth's surface forms clouds in the skies. These later condense to release water, which showers back down as rainfall. If there was no water on Earth's surface, the principle of rainfall would have remained unexpressed like a secret idea. And we will never have known about rainfall, even though the laws behind it are in existence. Using this analogy, Francis, for us, we could actually say that rainfall is like the expression of a cosmic idea. For an individual who is looking for a personal cosmic purpose for life, the answer is in life itself. One does not have to look very far when seeking for the cosmic purpose of one's life. Being alive is in itself an expression of cosmic laws. Our very existence is the expression of a cosmic idea and purpose. After all, a purpose is also an idea. In addition to cosmic purpose being fulfilled and expressed by the life in us, each individual should create a personal purpose to dedicate life to. This personal purpose must motivate us to carry out actions that are supportive of the expression of life. In return, life will support our actions. When a goal is exciting to us, we become enlivened by it. We find that we are driven to work very hard towards such a goal and do so tirelessly and enthusiastically. With every milestone of accomplishment in our purpose, joy literally bursts through our hearts. The goal or purpose becomes like an extra source of life energy. It has been observed that life in old age after retirement is often healthier and longer when the retiree remains dedicated to some purpose. This is because a purpose in life helps to keep us aligned with cosmic law, giving us a sense of direction and focus. And when this happens, Francis, for us, we are bound to experience the fullness of life in health, happiness, and peace. Finally, the more we align ourselves with cosmic law, the more it becomes obvious to us that in our times of need, cosmic law fulfills. So much it be. And so now I will be looking forward to questions arising from this presentation. I will ask you to please momentarily jot down your questions and comments so that when we start with that, it will flow. I would like to remind us that during our last presentation 2 weeks ago, there were some unanswered questions arising in a Delta Edo webinar and so forth. And in line with the deal that the moderator and I had, I would like those questions asked in the order that were written out so that I can address them. As a matter of fact, these questions were in fact sent to me, and I think the first of them was from Dr. Chuko Nabofa, pertaining to the Special Family Preneurs Convocation and AMRA Thanksgiving exercise, where members, families, and friends who are not members of the order can participate. It's specifically. Reference was also made, especially where members are ostracized and castigated by some other places of worship where they used to go, by persons who feel that they shared views or notions that were different. Would that be the first question, Sharon Nefertiti?
Yes, it is. I'm also the Grand Administrator.
Okay. Now, in answer to that question, the order's position in our jurisdiction encourages this family preneurs convocation, giving an opportunity to members' families to participate, as well as express gratitude by observing the law of AMRA. Whereas it is true in some churches that our members are ostracized as well as castigated, it is uplifting that such incidents have drastically reduced and there is greater awareness about what the order is nowadays. The second question, can you read it?
Yes, I can.
The second question, Sarah Nefertiti.
Yes, please. The second question is from Eric Tudo, and it is, the principle of let go of negative thoughts during and after meditation is a problem. In the light of transcending limitations, how do we overcome this? He actually posted for Frater Ogwadi Edwin of Lewis Lodge.
Okay, my answer. It is generally acknowledged that negative thoughts tend to rear their ugly heads in the process of preparing for meditation or cosmic attunement. We transcend this challenge by taking neutral deep breaths and permitting these negative thoughts to simply flick by, while we positively affirm our desire to attune with the cosmic, with thoughts of love, kindliness, healing, and peace profound to all of humanity. By focusing on the positive, the negative ceases to exist because we move towards the divine, and the divine moves towards us, which is what cosmic attunement is all about. Next question.
Okay, there is a third question from, this question was actually meant for Professor Orubu during the Delta Edo webinar. So he, Indi Kanwo Achinze was asking if it is proper for, is it proper for an insurance company to reduce the insured amount payable to an insurer because of COVID-19? I don't know if that question is okay for you now.
Okay.
Or we should allow Professor Rebu to deal with it later.
Okay, no, it's for us to the panel. I can say a few things, although I'm not an insurance broker. I do have insurance at several levels, and I can confirm on behalf of Professor Orugu, that when you have insurance, there are terms and conditions that apply. I will especially ask you to read some of those terms and conditions that are in very small italics, if that will help. If any of those terms and conditions are violated, the consequences may diminish your expectations. On the other hand, if everything is in compliance by virtue of your own practice in implementing your own part of the insurance, then all is well, and you may enjoy whatever outcome the insurances have guaranteed. Let us have the next question.
Amos for the Grand Administrator, before we
From
take
Trudeau.
the next question, let me remind our participants, our attendees, that we are still taking questions from the just concluded Delta Edu webinar. So if you're just joining us, I don't want you to think that this is so strange, or if you've been with us and you didn't hear when the GA said that, I am only reiterating what he said. These are questions that we couldn't handle during the Delta Edu webinar due to time factor, and we assured the attendees that we're going to treat these questions during one of the GA's e-forum. So for today's topic, which is sanctum musings aligning with cosmic law, which our GA has already treated, if you have questions, like he already stated, kindly leave them in the Q&A area. While we quickly rush through these questions, we are definitely coming back to that point, and we will take the questions. So our next question is from Fatah Tudor Emmanuel of Lewis Lodge. God is taken as omnipresent, omniscient. God is taken as omnipresent and omniscient. Can evil forces coexist within the omnipresent being?
My answer, yes, indeed. God is omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent. God is within us and around us, always. However, the human imperfection and capacity to think evil, speak evil, and do evil is what is responsible for evil forces. For this reason, destructive thoughts from human beings can be transmitted to others. But the cosmic consciousness of our own nature sets up a defensive mechanism to counteract them. So there should be no need why any of us should be afraid of negative or evil forces. Next question.
Next question is from Guru Aslan. Dear Most Venerable Grand Administrator Kenneth Idiodi, what are the main misconceptions or misunderstandings of members of the order concerning the teachings and order that leads to difficulties in life and their spiritual development?
Answer. In line with your observation, it is true that some of our members have misconceptions or misunderstandings of the Rosicrucian teachings. Because of time constraints, I will not go into any elaborate details, but I can give an example. For instance, rather than embrace the fact that Rosicrucian study is primarily a do-it-yourself project, some such members more or less fold their arms and think that some gurus will bless them with certain miraculous powers, which is a misconception. They fail to understand that nobody else in the world can breathe in and out on their behalf. Therefore, there are those who think that as soon as they become members, they become rich, and yet others who think that everything they like in life will automatically come to them because they have become members of the Rosicrucian Order Amor. These misconceptions do lead to difficulties in life and become a hindrance to spiritual development until they realize that they must be committed to the study, the investigation, and practical application of Rosicrucian principles they have learned in order to move forward. As soon as such understanding begins to dawn upon them, progress is guaranteed on the path. Thank you. Next question.
Okay, our next question is from Joseph Ethin. Greetings. Can black magic be used to limit someone? And how can one assume if under such spell?
Thank you. In response to your question, can black magic be used to limit someone? I can confirm that the answer is no. I refer you to the book Mental Poisoning by Dr. A. Spencer Lewis, former imperator of our order. There's a lot of superstitions in various cultures of our planet. And the greatest power of black magic, spells, and curses is in the fear of them. Period. Next question.
This is from Fratayome, Lewis Lodge Asaba. Rosicrucians believe that everything is happening under divine order, that nothing happens by chance, which means every action is influenced by some forces working in divine order. Why would karma hold me responsible for actions that were influenced?
Thank you. It is true, according to our Rosicrucian mystical philosophy, that everything and every situation in life manifests according to the modus operandi of natural and spiritual laws. Karma, the law of cause and effect, does not hold you responsible for actions that were not influenced, actions were influenced if you were not in any way involved. Please pay attention. Yes, everything and every situation in life manifests according to the mode of operation of natural and spiritual laws. There are no exceptions. Karma, the law of cause and effect, does not hold you and cannot hold you responsible for actions that were influenced if you were not in any way involved by your thoughts, utterances, and actions. Next question.
Next question is from Frater Boniface Irabi. A mystic did say when we are angry with someone, that we are actually angry with ourselves. Indeed, we drink poison and expect another to die. My question is, can't our thoughts affect another positively and negatively?
Yes, indeed, Frater Irabi. It is true that when we are angry with someone, we are actually angry with ourselves. It is also funny for us to drink poison and then expect another to die when what we have taken went into us, not to the other person. Just so, our thoughts can affect another positively and negatively. And so the answer to your question is yes. But they affect us who harbor such thoughts the most, which is why we should be careful about our thoughts because they become words. Be careful about our words because they become deeds. Be careful about our deeds because they become habits. Be careful about our habits because they become our character. Be careful about our character because it becomes our destiny. Thank you very much especially for those who were not present when these questions were asked, but they happen to be also questions that may throw some light into our limited understanding of mystical philosophy of the Rosicrucians. And I'm grateful I've had the opportunity to fulfill our pledge to answer such questions. Let me hope that you have not lost sight altogether of the main presentation this evening, which is, in my view, a back to basics presentation, that of aligning ourselves with cosmic law. And if you wrote questions or comments, I'll ask the moderator to take us through this next phase of this evening, of today's session, by taking comments or questions accordingly.
Thank you very much, Amos Wadi Grand Administrator, for treating those questions from the last e-conclave. And now to today's presentation, we have lots of questions. But before I start taking the questions, I've also noticed that most of the questions are being posted by devices without names. Please let me reiterate that according to cybersecurity policies, distinguished fratres and sorors, we are not allowed to take questions from anonymous devices. So if you have a device that has no name, your name per se, I'm sorry, we won't be able to take your question. And then there is another one from someone who has who's using a nickname. I would also request you to kindly rename your device. Thank you very much. Amos Wadi Grand Administrator, our first question comes from William Akolo. Do Rosicrucian principles equate cosmic laws? If not, are there a compendium of cosmic laws that one can lay hands on?
Thank you. Rosicrucian principles an offshoot, if I may say so, an emanation from our comprehension of natural and spiritual laws, of universal laws, generally referred to as cosmic laws. That said, each member of our order receives monographs. All of these monographs put together and all of sacred literature put together may not, in, of, and by themselves, constitute a compendium of cosmic laws, because as I stated in my presentation, each of us, all the scientists, historians and historiographers, philosophers, sages, religionists, are still researching into various aspects of the manifestation of cosmic laws. Therefore, our admonition to a Rosicrucian mystic philosopher, a student on this path, is that the entire universe is within us. The kingdom of the cosmic, of the universality of creation, is within us. There is the inner self, the master within, that is the consciousness of God within us. It is in this inner being that is always in touch with the cosmic and that has our past, present, and future in it, that we turn, because it is within it and what we call the Akashic records, that the compendium of all cosmic laws, known and unknown to us, resides. So if we are puzzled over any situation in life, and by the techniques and principles that the Rosicrucian order, for instance, has presented, we have made every effort to master the bit we can, we turn the consciousness inwards and should have a solution, a hint, an answer as to what and what we should do to impact positively upon whatever dilemma we face at the thresholds or crossroads of life, and we shall receive illumination and insight into how to live our lives in alignment with cosmic law. Thank you. Next question.
Thank you very much, Moswadi GA. Fratatoye Wolubon is asking, can an individual change a purpose he or she had earlier set for him or herself?
Thank you. The answer is a definite yes. And that is the purpose of the essence of the free will that God has given us. We have the will given to us by God to choose light or darkness, to choose to study medicine or law, to choose to be a bricklayer, an artisan, or an architect, to choose who to relate with in friendship, to choose who to marry or not marry, to choose the religion we want, and also to change our belief for better according to our own evaluation, and therefore can change from one religion to another, and all that and all that and all that is vast. The wiser we are, the better the choices we make. and also the greater the commitment in rendering service through such choices. Thank you. In other
Thank you
words, we may
very
have a purpose, we may aim at a particular stage in life to follow one line, maybe a certain profession or discipline of study at the level of secondary and tertiary institutions. We reserve the right, depending on our newfound knowledge, experience, and exposure, to change or add to another discipline that we prefer. And so you have people who studied law, some of them becoming doctors because they had to study medicine again and all that, and so on and so forth. So there is no limit except the ones we impose upon ourselves to what we can do, and in terms of frequency with which we may change our minds to pursue a cause and a life purpose that is more fulfilling to us, since perhaps in our depths of consciousness, the essence is to serve humanity to God's glory. Thank you.
Thank you very much, our most worthy Grand Administrator.
Next
There's a question from Gurul Aslan from the UK. He is asking, we are living in a time where there are many opinions towards certain topics, problems, and situations. We like and want to be tolerant and understand a situation properly, but this at times can lead to confusion and an inability to make the necessary steps and decisions individually or collectively in a group, such as family or colleagues. So, how can we apply tolerance in these times of many options, many opinions, and an immensely growing pressure towards political correctness?
Towards
Political correctness.
how can we apply tolerance towards what?
How can we apply
Okay.
tolerance
All right.
in these times? Okay.
Well, okay, thank you, I got it. First of all, just like I stated previously in answer to the last question, the exercise of our free will and choices we make in life, I think it can be rightly stated that since the human being is a political animal, his understanding of politics amongst humans is partly innate and also by comprehension of various political developments around where he stays or abides. And the political atmosphere varies from one location to another, one country to another, one area of human endeavor and aspiration to another. The rule of thumb here, not just for politics, but for religion, for race, for social, interpersonal relationships, etc., is the practice of tolerance. When we talk about universal love, impersonal love, and also that love is the law, meaning that we should love God, we should love our neighbors as ourselves. An expression of this love, of course, would be in terms of tolerance, forgiveness and forbearance, the capacity we should always improve upon to accommodate other people's beliefs, ways, idiosyncrasies, biases, prejudices, phobias, complexes, etc. And hopefully that they too, either reciprocally or by their upbringing and human development, spiritual development, will also tolerate us for what we are, regardless of our peculiar beliefs, notions, etc. Of course, all these without violating the laws of the land in which we have the privilege of being residents or workers, etc. Behind this tolerance also is the issue of sincerity. How sincere are we at our individual and personal levels, and then at the level of the community in which we are? I think it was Shakespeare's Hamlet in which it was stated, "This above all, to thy own self be true. And it follows as the night follows the day, thou canst not then be false to anyone." If we are sincere in the practice of love and tolerance, we'll be able to draw the line in terms of what is politically correct from our point of view, vis-a-vis what is not politically correct. And we must realize that no human being is an island unto himself or herself. We live in a community and in a democratic world, which essentially is what the Western world is, or at least claims to be. We must live and let live, be tolerant of one another, and be sincere in our approach towards these concepts. Thank you. Next question.
Thank you very much. Frater Henry Nzeka is asking, what is the difference between physical, natural, and spiritual laws? How does each relate to us as Rosicrucians and karma?
Thank you. First and foremost, the Rosicrucian student, e.g. myself, is a human being. Therefore, we live in a physical world. The human being is a spiritual being in a physical environment. True or false? The answer is true. Therefore, we must always bear in mind that our spirituality counts in terms of our development. That said, it is also true that we are not just spiritual beings. We are in a physical body that requires material needs. We are in a material, mundane environment that requires a struggle for survival. And therefore, we must think all the time of having a productive means of livelihood. We have mundane laws, physical laws. We have laws for the society or community where we are. We have things like constitution, laws made by human beings, etc., etc. These laws are laws. We have natural laws, e.g., if I raise this up and you can see it, and I release it, it must come down by the law of gravity. By the law of gravity, what goes up must come down. Although I know that in the area of economics, most prices that have gone up in our times, especially these times, have hardly had cause to come down. That is not in violation of any law, but it's also part of what we need to study when we look into governing factors that influence inflation, that plunge nations into economic recession or depression, or resurrection of economies. So we have a whole gamut of physical laws, natural laws, material laws in various disciplines of human study and endeavor. And then, of course, we have spiritual laws. And when we talk of karma, it cuts across the board, because at every level, you have a cause and effect situation, which is karma. At every level, you have a sowing and reaping situation, according to the law of compensation, and so on and so forth. You have all of these spiritual laws. we should try to know them, understand them, practice them, and appreciate them. That is what self-mastery is essentially all about. Beyond that, we'll be gunning for the mastery of life, which is the ultimate goal. Thank you. Next question.
Thank you very much. If you have many various gifts or talents you enjoy, how do you identify the one that you should pursue mainly to make a living and to fulfill your purpose in life?
Thank you. Very easy. Out of the multitudinous talents you have, there will be one or two that you are very, very, very passionate about and which you enjoy. Bearing in mind that hard work does not kill so long as you enjoy it. There's something that you would like to do day and night throughout your life without murmuring or grumbling, even if you are not paid. If it happens that there are avenues in which you can be paid, seek for employment in such areas and avenues. And you may be happier than you are now because you are employed, you are well paid, and you are enjoying life. Also, if there is no employment in terms of engaging your talents, think of how you can start your own business by yourself using your talents. And if there are one or two things you need to add, by way of skill acquisition, so that you can market your talents, you can manage whatever business opportunities you have, and administer the affairs of your life properly, go about it and do it. So the most important thing here is passion for a particular talent that you have and which you want to elaborate upon, enthusiasm to do the work resulting from such talent, tenacity of purpose, concentration, sense of direction and focus, and you will be there. Among the several talents you have, the one that will cause you so much stress to accomplish in a particular environment, either because you don't have the financial wherewithal to put it together, should be the last to be considered. In other words, in this area, you should have a tendency to follow the line of least resistance, do the things that you are very comfortable and at home with, and as that talent blossoms with the creativity that comes to it, and you are able to make some financial reward, you can then begin to develop or go into the more difficult areas because you have a basis for it. And people who recognize you and appreciate you will assist you to make these other diversified areas of your business activities or interests blossom because you have the talent in those areas as well. Next question.
Thank you very much. I'll be merging two questions. Udwab James asked, can one's purpose in life be brought to manifestation through active visualization? And what happens to individuals who have made earnest efforts to bring forward what they feel is their purpose in life without being successful? Now, the second part of the question is, can karmic consequences of past incarnation affect one's progress as a member of the order?
Maybe I start with the second one first, and I hope I remember the details of the first. The answer to the second question is yes. Not only as members of the order, but every human being who is a human being is affected by carryovers from the past. But that is nothing to bemoan our fate over, because we have within us what it takes to transcend such limitations or carryovers and to overcome. such limitations or carryovers. They are part of our life. We cannot will or wish them away, and so we must bear that in mind. As to the first question, yes, visualization, creative visualization can assist us in fulfilling our purpose in life. As a matter of fact, whether we know the tenets and basics of visualization or not, the more we put our mind to anything with a sense of direction and focus that we want to succeed in those areas, everything around us in nature and the invisible beings in the universe will assist us to succeed, because in the cosmic system, which is universal, we should be moving forward and upwards, not backwards and downwards. And so, inherent within us, the soul personality wants to evolve, to grow, to develop, and to excel. And so creative visualization will help us not only in fulfilling our purpose in life, but should we change the purpose to something else? By that same technique of visualization, we certainly can do even better, so long as our mind is telling us that this is what to do at this particular time in our lives. Next question.
Thank you very much. Fractor Eziali Victor Ibekwe is asking, as member of the order, I have not been satisfied by my progress in terms of dues payment and initiations. Does it mean I have not aligned myself with cosmic law?
Thank you. This will help me to answer an aspect of the immediate past question that I did not address. And that is when somebody has put in his or her best and still fails miserably. Aha. Now, the fact that we have certain talents and skills that we have acquired, the fact that we have almost everything going well for us, does not mean that we cannot, in the journey of life, come across a pathway or a situation in which the ground can be slippery and then we fall. God made the human being sufficient to stand, but free to fall. And at the same time, with the capacity or ability to will himself or herself to stand up after falling. So, if we fail miserably in an endeavor, we should try to get up and try again, 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 and again. This is where the principle of introspection or self-analysis comes into play. We should be able to turn in and reason with ourselves contemplatively. Why is it that we did not succeed, and so on and so forth? And as we ask these questions and meditate over them, the subconscious mind will help us to provide answers, some guidance, some hints, some inspiration. And working on that, we succeed. So as far as that first question is concerned, please be assured that we may not succeed in everything we set to do or go about, but for as long as we try, the potential for success is there. The most recent question, I'm not too sure whether I covered it just now. Nefertiti, can you just repeat that part?
The last question. I'm also the Grand Administrator. The last question. Okay. Can it I'm trying because I've already moved into the answered area. So let me just go back there. As a member
Okay,
of
that's
the
all right.
order.
I
Okay.
covered a part of it.
I could just read it.
Yes.
I found it.
Okay, who felt? Okay.
Sorry, I didn't get that.
As a member of the order, the question.
Okay. As a member of the order, I have not been satisfied by my progress in terms of dues payments. An initiation, does it mean I have not aligned myself with cosmic law?
Thank you for the question. I can tell you that there is no member of any organization that has 100% success in the goal that he or she may have set for himself or herself. What we do is to the best of our ability, apply with conviction certain principles that we have studied and see ourselves progressing. Most of the time, we have a tendency to compare ourselves with others without knowing their own circumstances, peculiar or otherwise, and assuming that they are succeeding more than we are succeeding. Whereas the right thing to do is to compare ourselves now with what we were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 years ago before we joined the order or when we joined the order. And so it is depressing to compare ourselves to some persons who are having outstanding success according to our own thinking without appreciating the fact that self-mastery is not a competition between us and others, but a process of self-improvement upon ourselves as time progresses, as the journey of life progresses over a period of time. And this is made very clear, not only in the broad teachings of the order, but at each stage, whether you have your own personal initiation in your sanctum or in the affiliated body, that you are progressing from one stage to another. Some of the experiences you have in a particular degree of study would be varied from the previous ones you have had. And that is how it should be. We are learning new things all the time and we are applying them. And the results we get from practical application may not be entirely satisfactory. But the more we practice, bearing in mind that practice makes perfect, the more we move towards perfection. Thank you. Next question.
Thank you very much. Match 2. Fata Basil is asking, most worthy GA, is cosmic law different from karmic law? And Fata Enemo is asking, how do we really align ourselves with cosmic laws? What are these laws?
Oh, okay. Maybe he was not there when I was answering the earlier questions. I've said these laws are universal. They are impartial. They are immutable. They will not be altered because of our personal whims, fancies, phobias, and what have you. They are there. You only have to understand them and flow with them. Or if you go counter to them, bear the consequences. This is not a threat. It is a statement of fact based on the fact that the human being has the intelligence to do very many things. In other words, it is easier if you are rowing a boat and you flow with the tide. But if you must go against the tide because you are to make a certain journey to the other side of the river, and you have a very powerful engine boat, the power of the engines will propel you forward at a very quick rate. So because you have science, you are aided by science, you can go against the tide and still make it. I mean, I've said that whatever goes up comes down according to the law of gravity. But we have aircraft, and an aircraft is able to defy that and go up without coming down unless certain things happen, and it crashed. But science aerodynamics makes it possible for an aircraft to run on the runway, take off, and go and move forward and upwards, going to greater heights above the clouds, such that if it is raining, it falls below it. So don't be intimidated by cosmic law, because each and every one of us is part and parcel of the cosmic system. And we are with these laws in creation. And without these laws, we cannot even exist. If we understand them, it's better for us. But understanding them, or rather, learning about them is not enough. We should try to understand them. It is by understanding them that we do things in alignment with these laws. Without an understanding of these laws, we'll be living on mere chance or luck, so-called luck, which I have always said is unreliable, it's very notorious, notoriously unreliable luck. I think that a comprehension of cosmic laws, is basic, fundamental, and the Rosicrucian students must, through the practice of the principles, that is amongst all other things, the way you live your life, you wake up in the morning, you do your meditation for a few minutes, you have work to go to. In the afternoon, you do certain things as well by way of attunement. And also in the night, you attune for a few minutes, not hours, because you need to sleep. Sleeping is very good. And then you relate with your family, with your environment, with your community in a manner that leaves no doubt that you are interested in progress, in success of not just yourself, but of the entire community, the entire state, of the entire nation, of our entire humanity. That altruistic approach to life and service places you in alignment with cosmic laws, because the cosmic system is waiting for who to use to build the human race to a greater extent and to liberate us from the self-imposed suffering that we have carried on with for millennia. And so the more you are willing to render service, the more you align yourself with cosmic law. Next question. I think we have a few minutes to go.
Yes. Okay, so we'll take about, let's say, some 3-4 questions, and then we'll compile the questions again and subsequently attend to them. But what do you think?
We did that deal last time, and it worked. My take here is that since some of the persons who asked the question may not be present in the next session, or they may be present, and especially if such questions have a certain universal character, which whether you ask the question or not will throw some enlightenment, I don't mind them. But to be specific, I think it's probably a more brilliant idea for those who have questions to write these questions and send them to the Department of Instruction with their email addresses and phone numbers, so that when we answer the questions, we can send it directly to their email addresses and or phone them in some instances if we can. And the reason I say this is not because we want to dodge questions, but because I know that Rosicrucians are walking question marks. Meaning, therefore, that even out of the answers that I have attempted to give, say at my neophyte level, the answers provoke additional questions. And so there is no end to questions that will be asked, because as Rosicrucians, we have acknowledged that we are walking question marks. That said, with about just, I think, 15 more minutes to go, and some time we need to set aside for meditation and attunement to end this session. If you can take one or two, three questions or thereabout, fine. And questions that we can't answer, which are already on your Q&A area, if you refer them to us through the Department of Instruction, as you have done this time, we will then send answers to such questions directly to the email, anyone that is of universal character, more or less, that may be of a general appeal to many people. If it is so wished, we can also field them, but so that they are not irrelevant to a current presentation. Sort of, it's a little bit dicey, but I praise the indulgence of our Francis and Soros, wherever they are, and their interest in not minding questions that were asked when they were not around. But we should leave some time, say 5 to 10 minutes or so, for an attunement session, which I think is good for all of us on a Thursday like this. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. So we'll answer about 3 questions, and that will be all for this session with regards to questions. Pascal Okabe is asking, what is the Rosicrucian teaching on sex outside marriage and same gender sex in particular?
Well, first of all, the Rosicrucian order has very many members who are of different religious affiliations, very many members who are different in their various beliefs, and very many members who are orthodox as well in their thinking. Broadly speaking, the order accepts that there is the institution of marriage, and that this institution should be respected. Up to recent years, at least, we saw marriage being defined as between a man and a woman. In the democratic world, a lot of liberty has been given to citizens. And so in some countries, you have same-gender marriages that are allowed by law of the land. In other countries, democratic, where such is not allowed, then any member of this organization must respect the laws of a country in which he or she resides and has the privilege of being a resident. That said, there are very many questions about sex and issues pertaining to love, sex, and marriage that are best handled by marriage counselors. At this moment, we are not a moralistic type of organization. We are an educational, cultural, philosophical, mystical, and initiatic organization. We will advise people to follow as much as they can their innate spiritual convictions, regardless of religious phobias and biases. For example, what would be the Rosicrucian view on polygamy? For the reasons I have given earlier, this is very straightforward. If you are a Christian and a member of the Rosicrucian order, it is nice and proper that you remain a monogamist, and you'll be married to one wife, married to one man. Now, if you are a Muslim, you have a choice also of being married to more than one woman, up to a maximum of 4, so long as you can take care of them equally and in a just manner, according to the tenets of that religion. And we do have Rosicrucians who are Muslims as well as Christians. Then, in the African church, for instance, you may marry even more than 5 wives because polygamy is an accepted African culture. So now, the Rosicrucian view would be to bring in reason, logic into it. Can you cope actually with more than one wife? Or in areas where they practice polyandry, a woman married more than one man, a woman can marry 2 men. Can a soror cope with that? You know, so these are issues, you know, that we leave to the individual member according to his fundamental religious belief. And I dare say that I have many friends who are Muslims, some of who are Rosicrucians, and they have been very contented with one wife. Some, in fact, feel that one wife is even more than enough. I don't know whether there is anything like half a wife or so, but the truth of the matter is that each person on the part of self-mastery should be able to fulfill all obligations and responsibilities. Each of us should be able to carry our cross of life gracefully and admirably. And with that, according to our convictions, matters pertaining to love, sex, and marriage, which, by the way, as we all know, like all other matters, have severe karmic implications, positive and negative, should be handled by the conscience of each member. I hope I've answered this question. I can tell you that life is enjoyable when in a marriage institution, you have many things in a state of balance because you have learned certain choices. There is love, there is tolerance, there's mutual understanding, there's communication, there's forgiveness, and there's a commitment to chart the way forward in life. The next question, could you say maybe the last?
Yes. I'm actually thinking how to break this particular question into 3 parts. Okay, there is, at what point one will be convinced that he or she is working in harmony with cosmic laws? That's a part. There is also, how can one achieve harmonium in heart, mind, and soul and project it to others? That's another part. Should I go on with the 3rd part, sir?
Yes.
Loving everyone
Yes.
and understanding. Loving everyone and understanding everyone seems at times to create conditions where we are confused to decide which decision or position to take. How can we be understanding and loving, yet decisive and practically successful?
Okay. There are very many issues and questions here. All I can tell you is that there is no one answer to any of these questions that will be satisfactory, except, as I have always been saying in recent times, to go back to basics. What actually do you want in life? Because every day in life offers us lessons. It is a new monograph each day, if we are observant and willing to learn. So when we make general broad statements, as this questionnaire has made, loving everybody, this and so on and so forth, and all that, we must bear in mind that there are universal concepts. What is love? What does loving everybody mean? You have to understand that. What is understanding? When we say that, I know from, for instance, the scriptures, in all thy learning, get understanding. What do we mean by understanding? Is there a difference between knowledge and understanding? And a difference between understanding and wisdom, for instance? So we have to come to terms with ourselves to take one day at a time and be contented with it. And to know that when the basic things are in place, this is what led to, which are the one or two most important commandments. And it was beautifully summarized by the Master, that we should love God with all our strength and might and so on and so forth, and we should love our neighbors as ourselves. Very simply put. But in terms of practice, we find that all the other commandments are infused in this. And at the level of contemplation, we see why it is futile to judge others, because by whatever yardsticks and parameters and measures we use in judging others, we too are judged. So now, to be in harmonium, to be in a state of harmony with the cosmic, aligning ourselves with cosmic law, we need to be able to live a life in which we know a lot, understand a lot, and can put it into practice regarding what we eat and our diet, what we drink, regarding exercises, physical, mental, emotional, psychic, spiritual, regarding human relationships, regarding for ourselves at the individual level, do's and don'ts, regarding how we start our day, how we progress with it, and how we end it. And be open-minded. Only an open mind can embrace the secrets of the universe. If you are bigoted, dogmatic, or arrogantly feel that you know everything because you have read a holy book from cover to cover, or you have a PhD in something, and therefore forgetting that there are other disciplines, you lack humility, you lack simplicity, you make things complex for yourself and others, it's difficult to begin to think of harmonium in your life. And so, because of this, I personally, in my early years, summarized all this in my personal philosophy of life and thought of something very simple, which I call the harmonium formula. To sow good and reap good is living. To think good and speak good is good. To speak good and do good is better. To think, speak, and do good is best. And I made a song out of it. And I think that if we harbor good thoughts and speak from the depths of our minds as much good as we can, and do as much good by virtue of what we think and speak, there's a correspondence between our thoughts, utterances, and actions. We can establish within us harmonium, and we manifest it in our lives, and it can impact very positively and favorably upon others, And whether we like it or not, as we have given and shared with others, they also give and share with us, because that is the law. So I think this is a good question to close this this day's forum with. And it's on that note that I will ask that you please sit relaxed. And remember, as you do breathing in and breathing out, that within each of us is a quiet, serene center where one can go for strength, rejuvenation, find answers to questions that are bothering us, and grow in spiritual stature and development. This, fratres and sorors, is our soul center, where we commune with the God of our hearts, the God of our realization, the God of our deepest understanding, indeed, the God of all creation. It is important that we go there every day, seeking, seek renewal and guidance, as well as inspiration, emanating from such attunement. We find strength and serenity to meet, conquer, and overcome life's challenges, and to move up the ladder of spiritual experience and maturity on which we ascend slowly but surely. And so now I ask that we close our eyes and turn our consciousness inwards. Let us be calm and feel this calmness all over our body, from the toes and our feet, right through the ankles, the lower and upper legs, the thighs, the waist, from our fingers and our hands, elbows, upper arms, from our navel area through the inner organs, kidneys, chest, heart, lungs, through the throat to the center of our heads, and feel the vibrations assisted by our breathing as we visualize ourselves in a spherical ball of light. And so, with the first deep breath, let us acknowledge the light of God within us and around us. And so that when we are ready to exhale, our entire beings and auras are charged with the brilliance of this light. With the second deep breath, let us acknowledge the breath of life, the vital life force, the life of divinity within us. And so that when we are ready to exhale, our auras are charged with the vitality of divine life. Finally, with the third deep breath, let us acknowledge the love of God, which is universal, impersonal. And so that when we are ready to exhale, our entire beings and auras are charged with the sublimity of divine life, divine love. And thus imbued with the light, life, and love of divine effulgence, let us unite in invocation. May the divine essence of the cosmic infuse our beings and cleanse us of all impurities of mind and body, that we may enter the celestial sanctum and attune in pureness and perfect dignity. So much it be. And let us now feel our consciousness rising above our heads, above the building we are, above the village, town, or city, above the country and continent, above the clouds, until we feel the earth far, far beneath and behind us. Gradually, gradually, in consciousness, we go beyond our solar system into higher areas. Have a feeling of approaching our celestial sanctum, which represents the highest plane of consciousness that can be achieved when attuning oneself with the cosmic. Because it is a realm of purification, regeneration, revelation, and illumination. It is to this realm, this field of cosmic energy, that we go to petition for the health, happiness, harmony, welfare of others, and the overall well-being of ourselves, as well as for peace on earth. Let us feel the beauty, the peace, and the serenity of this environment as we settle for attunement, for our well-being and the well-being of others, the well-being of our planet, with gratitude for the gradual eradication of the pandemic from our planet. And let us sink in, and with gratitude in our hearts and minds, request for divine inspiration and guidance as to how best we can live our lives in alignment with cosmic law. Let us sink into meditation for a few moments. and ask the God of our hearts, the God of our realization, for this guidance. And now, brothers and sisters, we unite in prayer. God of our hearts, God of our realization, we are thankful for the many blessings of life that we have received and enjoy. And in this era of a global pandemic in particular, for the protection that millions of human beings on earth have received, for the inspiration that has motivated doctors, pharmacists, and scientists at the research level to come up with vaccines, and for those in the medical profession in various countries, including those who deal with nature directly, herbs, have been able to improvise by way of temporary or good treatment and cure and the eradication of this pandemic from human life. We ask, as always, for your continued divine inspiration, guidance, and protection in our lives, and especially for inner direction as to how to live our lives in accordance and in alignment with cosmic law. May our acts of service ever be to your glory, the good of all, and the evolution of our soul personalities. So much it be. And now, brothers and sisters, will gradually return by the same route through which we came, in consciousness, into our solar system, through the clouds, high, medium, and low clouds, to the continent we are, the country, the city, the town, the village, the building, gradually now into our mundane physical temple. As I say the closing prayer, may the grace of God sanctify our individual and collective attunement with the celestial sanctum. So much it be. And now, Francis and Rose, let us become fully aware of our physical, mundane, and objective surroundings. I want to thank you all for this evening, for participating in this Zoom session. Well, thank the moderator, the technical crew, for the support we've had this evening, and for those who are intro and preparation for the sanctum, to have a lovely evening of divine inspiration and illumination, and to use the benefits of our programs and our practices for the good of all. Thank you. Good morning where some are, good afternoon where others are, and good night here in Nigeria. Peace profound. The moderator will now close this session. Okay.
Thank you very much, Amos, for the Grand Administrator. Distinguished fratres and sirs, Amos, the Grand Administrator, has given us a very wonderful session, an amazing session. And indeed, we are grateful. And to you all, thank you for your time. Thank you for always being here. And hope to see you at our next E-Forum. Have a good night from Nigeria.